Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Singapore Injustice Podcast. I'm one of the co hosts, Kush, and this is Max, and today we're going to be taking a brief look into some of the injustices in Singapore for this series.
It's raining raincoats.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, It's Raining Raincoats is a organization aimed to better migrant workers. Now, as you can see during the COVID period, a lot of the cases have been in migrant worker dormitories, and it's been brought to light about how horrible the conditions are living in there. You know, like everyone's so close together. We've seen some pictures that come to light recently. So this organization's been existing since 2015. It's been founded by someone that many people call a very nice lady, and she's given her personal number to every single migrant worker in Singapore. So if you're a migrant worker and you have any trouble, just call her up.
Wouldn't her line be like completely full of calls the whole time?
I don't know, but she's doing very well.
So is she part of an organization? Any particular organization?
Yeah.
So
It's Raining Raincoats. That's what she's first started off by like being someone really chill, like a friend of all the migrant workers, giving her number, and now she's built it onto this entire organization.
cool. So tell me more about It's Raining Raincoats and the whole situation.
So they focus on minor to major solutions, like on their Facebook page, which is mainly where they connect with their audience. They give a lot of posts about ideas for helping migrant workers, which we'll come back to because that's where you can see a lot of CAS opportunities. And you can also see like some news about what they do. Like a couple of days ago, they found some migrant workers working really hard, so they bought some bottles of water. Something really small, but means a lot.
Yeah, because I can imagine that one issue that migrant workers and workers might face is the dehumanizing aspect of
Exactly.
spent doing hard labor every single day, and the average Singaporean or foreigner just walking past you as if you don't exist. And I can imagine that a simple act, like if someone does something that simple and that just out of the pureness and the kindness out of their hearts, it's not only the physical thing that they get. It's not only the bottle of water that they receive. They receive a sign of I matter in this world, and like I think that counts a lot towards emotional and mental support. And I can imagine that if you feel like you're doing your job and a slight emptiness in your life because people don't acknowledge your existence, I can totally imagine that simple acts like these, just for someone to acknowledge that you do the work that you do by, for example, what you said, just simply buying something very cheap that doesn't really actually practically mean that much. I think that it more often than not has more value than people might expect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now it's not just ignoring migrant workers. I read recently an article that people are avoiding migrant workers because apparently there's been a prejudice like, oh, migrant worker probably has COVID.
I've heard actually I have first-hand experience with this. When I was on the MRT, I think a few weeks back, as you know, Singaporeans take social distancing fairly strictly, and they really try their best to adhere to the rules, and even unwritten rules, just they even though it's not said, some Singaporeans still adhere to some unwritten rules that they think might better the situation. For example, on the MRTs when it's not that busy, people automatically space themselves one seat apart, so there's always a one seat space between everyone. And as soon as it gets a little busier, granted, those spaces do fill up, but when it's not busy and when there's not too many people that people need to sit down, Singaporeans in general, I've seen, always try their best to space themselves out. So basically, a month ago, I was on the MRT and I saw it was right on the brink between spacing out and not spacing out. So there were some spaces purposely left between people, but some spaces had already been filled up because it was starting to get a little busy. And I saw that these three Singaporeans, these three, I don't remember exactly what they look like, but these three Singaporeans, I remember seeing it and thinking, these people are clearly Singaporeans. These three Singaporeans, two Singaporeans and one foreigner actually, they were sitting right next to each other, and right beside the one all the way on the left and right beside the one all the way on the right, there was a space. So there was a space, three people, and another space. So then, each of those three people obviously knew it was okay, like they were okay with having someone sit next to them. Then I watched a migrant worker get onto the MRT and sit next to one of them. So then, instead of three people and two spaces on each side, there were four people with only one space on the side. That person that was formerly on the edge, now between two people, between the migrant worker and the other person, stood up.
Yeah.
So this person thought it was okay to sit next to someone, but as soon as the migrant worker sits next to him or her,
yeah, and you don't know what kind of impact that'll have on someone.
I think that's very painful. Like, aside from, because practically it's not that big a deal.
Exactly.
But the dehumanizing aspect of it, I can't even imagine what it might be like to go through what these people go through.
Imagine, like, they've already had so much physical stress. Obviously, we've seen their rooms and everything, and now when you think about the mental health as well, with normal people treating them like they're not human, as you've said. So let's go into our next segment about a little more into Singapore's mindset on migrant workers, which is what the main goal of It's Raining Raincoats is. They want to change the mindset that Singapore has on migrant workers, like the dehumanization, dehumanizing aspect of it. So Singapore, like many countries in the world, has a sort of them versus us attitude with migrant workers. With the government, like inside the government with like laws, it's not really clear, but when you look at it through our society, you can see the changes and the imbalance between migrant workers and normal people in the society.
I feel like that's often like that. You know how every almost every developed country has that one populace that is seen to that is often of a lower economic class, social class, that does that do the low tier jobs, such as like maybe the dishwasher in a restaurant or janitors. So you know how like most developed countries have that one group of whether it's like one ethnic group that is more often than not doing those types of jobs. In Singapore, it's both the helpers we see everywhere from the Philippines, Malaysia, and other Southeast Asian countries, and also these migrant workers, mostly from Bangladesh. I've also I can imagine that the same thing that happens in Singapore, the them versus us attitude, also occurs in other developed countries, where they also have a very clear populace that does these jobs that the natives of the country do less often. For example, in the UK, somewhere in the I think I'm not 100% sure about this, but in the 80s or something, there was an immigration flaw. There was a flaw in the immigration rules or something that allowed many because of I don't know exactly what because, but it allowed many Polish people to migrate to the UK. Or I think it was the 90s or something, and so then in that time period, people would if you were to hire someone to fix your door or to fix a light bulb, a guy of Polish descent would come to your house and fix that for you. So I can imagine that like those groups of people in countries such as the UK then, or people from South America in the US now, often experience a them versus us attitude, because the people of the host country often think that because they have a higher economic or social standard than the people that migrated to their country, they feel like they're above them. I feel like that's exactly what happens in Singapore.
And like over time, like as years go on and you see the same like Polish descent that comes to fix your door and everything, it sort of builds up into something else.
Yeah.
Slowly develops into
if you're a young boy and you see your father
yeah, exactly.
do that, then I think that slowly gets ingrained into the culture. And sadly, I think that that's happened to Singapore, just like it has happened to countless other developed countries.
We have to keep in note like how these migrant workers are people too. They have a family, usually back in their home country where they send all their money to. So they're doing a lot of work for their family just to keep them.
I think that's if anything, people should respect. I hold these people these people that dedicate their lives to the well-being of their family back home by enduring who knows what. I think that's completely like. I think that situations such as these, such as those, deserve our utmost respect, and like, I think it's sad for, yeah, them not to get the respect that they deserve.
So that'll lead us on into not a nice story, but a story nonetheless about a migrant worker in Singapore. So imagine you're a migrant worker here, your family, so a pregnant wife and 2 kids, all back in India,
Mhm.
and
You're
you're working
a
here.
pregnant wife and 2 kids.
Exactly.
So there's 3 kids soon.
3 kids soon, and you're in Singapore, and a couple days go by, a couple years, they turn into years. You're doing well. One day you get some stomach pain. So this is the story of Thanabal Suresh, a 39-year-old worker here. After he got the stomach pain, he went to the hospital, which is obviously cost a lot. So it must have been some crazy pain for him to go to the hospital because, like, you don't have a lot of money. You send it all back to your family back in your home. So you're inclined to like leave it and see if it'll get better on its own. So he's left it like that for a couple
That's
months.
dangerous.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. So eventually he goes to the hospital, and guess what he gets diagnosed by? Terminal cancer. So that's a lot to take. So
So he left it alone for like a year,
Yeah.
or some extended period of time, and he just had cancer.
and he used his phone a friend to It's Raining Raincoats founder. He called her, he told her everything about it, and they started a Give.Asia charity page. Like together, Give.Asia is like GoFundMe, but for Singapore and in Asia. So, oh wow. So they created a Give.Asia donation. Right now I'm looking at the page. A couple days ago, it was at 34,000 raised for
Wow.
Thanabal Suresh.
So what is it now?
It's now already at 54,000 raised for this man. They've met their goal and they're exceeding it. So this was posted on their Facebook page, and just like 2 days ago, 3 days ago, when I saw this first, it was at 34,000. Now it's at 54,000. So you can see
Wow.
about what he's doing. with his
That's
family.
great that people donate to such causes like that. That really makes me. That really puts some hope for me. That puts some more hope in humanity, because